podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks January 5th, 2020, from our LastPass studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure they are by making access and authentication seamless. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more. This is episode 1658. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Worldwide Technology. Worldwide Technology's Advanced Technology Center is like no other testing and research lab, with more than $500 million of equipment, including solutions from key partners like Intel Corporation. And it's virtual, so you can access it 24/7. To learn more, get insights into all that it offers, go to wwt.com/twit. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, and home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, CES, and all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo, my phone number if you want to call. 8888 Ask Leo. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, you can still reach us. Just call Skype out or something like that. You know what I mean. You know what I'm saying. Use your WhatsApp to make the phone call. 8888 Ask Leo. U.S. government has decided, as of tomorrow, that if you want to export geospatial imagery software from the United States, you have to apply for a license, except when it's shipped to Canada. They're trying to put, what this means is they're trying to put limits on artificial intelligence software because they're afraid that the Chinese will get it. Really, is what they're saying. We've had, it's interesting because it's kind of controversial. I mean, no, it's not controversial that we'd like to, keep our own technology to ourselves, I guess. But this is more of the nature of kind of research and math. And there are people in the U.S. who say, well, you can't keep a lid on that. And the thing they compare it to is a law that was in effect in the early days of the internet that said you couldn't export strong crypto. Cryptography is the ability to scramble messages so no one can read them. And we have, thanks to the math, it's not complicated, we have a very good system for exchanging messages privately. It's called public key cryptography, and there are a number of different algorithms, but they can be expressed simply. U.S. government said, well, we don't want any of this to get out. So we're going to ban export. And what the upshot was, your browser, in those days it was Netscape, couldn't have strong cryptography built into it if they wanted to sell it anywhere or give it away, I guess. I guess they were selling it in those days, give it away or sell it to anybody outside the U.S. So we all got what they called 48-bit crypto, which isn't good crypto. What's the opposite of strong? Weak, easily broken. And it was a terrible idea because the law, first of all, left loopholes. For instance, you couldn't export the bits, but you could write a book. So somebody wrote up the whole algorithm and printed it up in a book and shipped the book, and that can be sent. There was a guy who wore a T-shirt. It fit on a T-shirt. Who, I can travel the world with this T-shirt, and anybody who takes a picture of it can then understand how crypto works. You can't keep some information private. And I understand the desire to, well, we got to keep artificial intelligence private because, we're good. We're the good guys. We're never going to do anything bad with it. But they're the bad guys, so let's not let them know. Here's the truth of it. First of all, is these are widely understood algorithms, and the Chinese are actually a little ahead of us. As far as we can tell, when it comes to things like face recognition, speech recognition, the Chinese are doing pretty well. Self-driving cars, they've got very good engineers, and the government's pouring lots of money into this research. So, the upshot of this may be that we don't get the technology that would help us do a better job. Oh, whoops. Article in the Guardian about Cambridge Analytica. Remember that name, the company that was taking Facebook data, in particular quizzes that you would take on Facebook, and use it to profile you, and then use those profiles to feed you propaganda. Well, now we're learning, in fact, that it wasn't just Facebook, the 87 million Facebook profiles they got access to, but it was a global infrastructure of operations used to manipulate voters on, quote, an industrial scale. An industrial scale all over the world. Elections in Malaysia, Kenya, Brazil. This trove of documents was leaked by a former employee at Cambridge Analytica. Apparently, it was the same documents, we haven't seen them yet, but Robert Mueller subpoenaed in his investigation into the Russian interference in the election in 2016. The reason I bring it up is because it's still going on. Cambridge Analytica is gone, but there are a number of people who've taken their places, and the activities is on big time to influence elections. Turns out, who knew? We thought the internet would be this great thing, and it is in so many ways. Great article last week in the New York Times about why Twitter really, for all its flaws, also transformed the decade. And, there's a lot of good in the internet. So I don't want to throw out, everything just because there's some problems. But I think we've learned that social media in particular, things like Facebook and Twitter, can be used to disseminate propaganda in a form and a fashion that is unique, that is so powerful because they can be targeted. They've effectively weaponized social media. The Guardian headline says, fresh leak from Cambridge Analytica shows global manipulation is out of control. Oh, that's good news. Just thought you'd like to know. Don't believe everything you read, I guess. That's part of the problem, right? Is we're kind of been trained to trust the printed word. But clearly that's misguided. And maybe we're just now catching up. I hope kids are learning. I think they are. I think kids are maybe a little more cynical than I'd like them to be, but at least they look at something on the internet and they go, well, that's on the internet. What do you, we used to think, if it's published in the New York Times, it's true. Obviously, that's not the case. And it's even more ridiculous to say, well, if it's published on the internet, it must be true. Not going well for magazines, though. Google has announced they're killing off digital magazines in their Google News product. If you subscribed, Apple has the same thing in News Plus, where you can subscribe for a flat fee and get hundreds of magazines. Google is doing the same thing, but they've decided, no. We're discontinuing they call it the print replica magazines in Google News. We'll refund your subscription if you have a subscription. And you'll have access to any issues that you downloaded in the past. But I'm going to guess there's been kind of some chatter in the background from magazine publishers. They don't make hardly any money on Apple's news subscription service. Some of them said, I saw an article last week that said, we make no money on it, but it's good for us because people find us and maybe they'll subscribe to us, the paper version. I'm curious, do you get paper magazines still? I used to. They would stack up, pile up, and they'd give you guilt too, because you pile of National Geographics, and I didn't read those. I got to read the bottom of the pile before I read the top of the pile. And pretty soon you stop reading any of the pile, and then you just got a pile. You can make some furniture out of it, I guess. Mostly ends up in the basement, right, or the garage. I'm guessing magazine subscriptions, print magazine subscriptions are way down. I'm guessing. And I wanted to warn you about a new scam, just so that you know. We talk a lot about how phishing emails target you, usually come from your bank or the IRS or maybe your great aunt who's going to leave you $1 million or somebody in Kenya, but they're targeting you and they have links in the email. Comes in texts too. In fact, I've been seeing a lot more of them in texts. I get texts that say, this is Apple. your iCloud account has been compromised. Click this link and log in to verify these most recent logins. And you go, wow, Apple, that's good. I better do that. Thank you for protecting me. But look, scrutinize the link. And this is important to understand. What you're looking at is the end of the link, not the beginning of the link. And you're looking at the .whatever, .com, .net, .info. These days, it could be a lot of things, right? A lot of things. And then the thing right before that dot is what you want to look at. If that's apple.com and the link takes you to apple.com, that's another problem because links can look like one thing, but you click on them, they take you somewhere else. So look in the browser. If you click a link, I'd recommend typing them in, but if you do click it, because that's easier, look at the browser and look at that end part, the end part. And the reason I say that is bad guys are now doing some interesting tricks to trick you. They'll say, the beginning part will say something like apple.com and it'll be, billing info. And now they're adding a date to it, the current date. So they might say apple.com.billinginfo.January 5th and then something else. And that's the key. The apple.com is at the beginning, and the date and the billing info, things that look serious and informative, are at the end. The end is where you're going. The last bit right before the dot, that's where you're going. And if you're going to billing info January 5th .info, that ain't Apple. But people, they know. People just look at it. They say, oh, I see Apple in there somewhere. Must be okay. So this is a little scammer trick now, is registering name domains with dates in them, which kind of further obscures, especially if it's today's date. Oh, this is your bank. Bank of America billing info January 5th.com. This is your bank. And, there's something going on. Quick log in. That isn't your bank. I just wanted a little word of warning. Just to help you, because really that's the biggest threat to people these days. A lot of times people say, "Oh, I got an antivirus, I'm not worried," and it's not. It's not the virus that you get on your floppy disk anymore. It hasn't been for some time, has it? Has anybody seen any floppy disks? Did you get a box for Christmas? It's not the floppy disk anymore. It's the email. It's the link. It's the website. And they do whatever they can to obscure the real source of that stuff. Phone calls, links in email, links in text messaging. Be very cautious about that. All right, we're going to take a break. Come back. Your calls. Kim's getting ready. She's answering the phones. 8888 Ask Leo. When you hear something, and I'll put links to these stories in our website. It's all there, techguylabs.com. That's free, no sign up, techguylabs.com. So anything you hear on the show, you can go there and find the link. You can the audio and video from the show will be there later today. So it's all up there, techguylabs.com. 8888 Ask Leo. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the unbreakable Kimmy Schaffer. She don't take no Schaffer. No, she don't. Hello, unbreakable phone angel.
Good morning. You're off to Vegas, huh?
As the sun goes down on this show, I shall be boarding a big old jet airliner heading to visit the robots in Las Vegas.
All right.
At the I have to call it now the show formerly named the Consumer Electronics Show. Now it's just CES.
Oh, they just shortened it.
They don't. It's like Prince. They just got tired of saying the whole phrase. And I think, it's like KFC. They did the same thing, right? They don't, because the idea of Kentucky Fried Chicken in this day and age, maybe, people go, I don't want fried chicken. I'll have some of that KFC, though.
Because if we call it KFC, it doesn't mean it's fried and fattening.
It's not fried. It's just KFC, the Colonel's secret recipe. Mm-hmm. So CES, consumer electronics. I don't want that. Oh, I'll go to CES, though. And apparently the big thing will be robots. Pancake making robots, pizza making robots. I don't think that's really a robot. That's a machine.
Well, and you had the cocktail making robot on the boat a few years back, and they got one of those in Vegas.
That was a robotic arm.
Yeah.
That kind of did make, I mean, it was I guess, what makes a robot? Doesn't have to look like a human.
I don't think it has to look like a human. I think it just has to do things for you and be programmed and, yeah.
So a pizza making machine.
Oh, it has to move. It has to have movable parts.
Yeah. I guess you could call a pizza making machine a robot. I mean, I don't know. Do you remember in the old days we had donut making machines?
Yes.
Was that a robot? No, it was just a donut maker.
What about that? Yeah, the fast pizza maker at Costco. Is that a robot?
No. See? You know, that's been in Costco for years.
Yeah. Well, there's a human putting all the toppings on it.
Oh.
So, yeah.
So it's one of them man-machine deals.
Fast ovens. I don't know.
There will be robots. There will also be some other things.
All the TVs.
Lots of TVs. Scott Wilkinson's going to join me there at Vegas. And I should mention that, of course, I'll cover this when I get back. I'll be talking like this, and I'll be exhausted, but I'll tell you next week. But if you want to see our ongoing coverage, our podcast network, Twit, will be streaming that at our website, twit.tv, and also on YouTube, youtube.com/twit. Because I'm a big fat twit. No, because it stands for This Week in Tech. Just like KFC, it stands for nothing.
Yeah, I get asked a lot. Why
are you working Twit?
What is that all about?
Why? And you know, I'm showing the company colors. I'm wearing my Twit hoodie today. You know.
There you go.
So you know, I guess I thought it was a good idea when I named the network in 2004. I thought it was a good idea, but then you know, because it's funny, it's self-deprecating. This Week in Tech, but now I realize all the headgear, you know, the hats and the T-shirts and all that stuff, people don't want to wear them because it's announcing
like you're calling yourself a twit.
That they're twits. Oh man, you know who's going to a CES with me? Well, not with
everyone.
Me. Everyone except you.
Not me.
No, I have to leave some people here to do the job. But Sam Abuelsamid will be going. Our car guy. Sam's going to join us in a minute. And he will be also talking about the latest automotive things. In fact, I'm going to get to see, I'm very excited, my next car. The Ford Mustang Mach-E, their first Mustang that's all electric, except it's not really a Mustang. It's an SUV. But, you know, it's Mustang-ish. It has a horse
Mustang SUV.
Yeah, it's a pony on the front. That makes it a Mustang. Okay. As a former Mustang owner, like real Mustang, you know, I had a GT 5.0. I loved it. I don't mind. This is going to be fun. It'll be as fast as a Mustang, but it'll be like a crossover vehicle. Anyway, thank you. Tell everybody on the phone. We're going to get to them in a second, but Sam's, you know, as Mustangs do, champing at the bit.
Killed that one again.
Yeah, killed it, dead. Kim Schaffer, thank you, Phone Angel. We'll talk to everybody in just a minute, but first, a break. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hello, Sammy.
Hello, Leo.
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing dandy. Just got into my hotel room about 10 minutes ago.
He's already there. What's the vibe in the city of lost wages?
Looks about the same as usual, although it seemed a little less crowded in the airport than usual.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, maybe not as many people here this year.
Maybe not. You
or
know,
maybe they're just getting in later.
They changed our flight. We had a direct flight tonight, 8 o'clock to Vegas, and Southwest has changed it. It is now going to Reno and then Las Vegas. So they only added a couple hours to the flight. I'm a little annoyed by that. But
are you going from Oakland or San Francisco?
Yeah, Oakland. We go. Oakland's much easier. So instead of getting in at 9:15, we get in at 11. It's like, what?
Well, at least you don't have a time change, you know.
No. You do, don't you?
I left the house at 6:30 Eastern time this morning.
So, you want to do a preview of the big shoe?
Yeah, I'll do a little preview. And I also want to just give a quick heads up to people about Tesla and autopilot. Just saw another thing this morning. There was another crash with a Tesla that ran a red light. And this is the third one in the past week where it's suspected that autopilot might have been in use. And so I just want to remind people that it's not self-driving.
It does not see lights or stop signs.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't even see trucks.
Yeah, fire trucks.
Yeah.
Bright yellow fire trucks.
Yeah.
Drives right into them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we should bring that up. Although it's just annoying. It's all...
My badge here.
Oh, nice. That's you. Hey, they put your picture on it now.
Yeah.
No more sharing badges.
No.
I used to leave and say, here, take my badge. But not anymore.
No, they started doing that a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I haven't been there. I looked it up since 2012. Since 8 years. And I stopped going because nothing ever changes. And so I thought, well...
Oh, it just changes so slowly.
Yeah.
I like your strategy. Go every 7 or 8 years.
If you go every decade...
You notice the difference.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. All right. We'll get to you in a second, my friend.
Have you seen the Segway wheelchair thing that they just
that's
the other
cool.
day?
Will that be there?
Yeah, I think so. Yes,
that's cool. I like that.
Segway's booth is down in the South Hall.
Yeah,
but it's kind of like the GM Envy, but a single seater and it's open.
Yeah, it is. It's like the Envy, isn't it?
Yeah,
it looks cool. It's really what it really is the Wall-E chairs.
Yes, very much like
the hover chairs from Wall-E.
They don't quite hover yet, but...
Well, they only have 2 wheels.
Yeah.
Sam Abuelsamid is here, principal researcher at Navigant Research. He does a car podcast at wheelbearings.media and joins us every week to talk about the automotive industry. Hello, Sam.
Hello, Leo. How are you this week?
You're already in Las Vegas. I'm great.
I just got here I got to the hotel about 15 minutes ago.
And you got a cold already. It's amazing how fast that happens. Oh, we were talking before
they give you a shot as you get off.
They
the
might
plane
as
now.
well. You get 180,000 people together. Even if only 10 of them have a cold, but they're all in confined quarters for a few days, they're all going to get sick.
Yeah, I'm more concerned about stuff like measles and stuff. Cold, that's no big deal.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I'm washing my hands every meeting. I'm going to scrub afterwards. And people are saying, well, do the elbow bump or the fist bump. Don't touch. And no kissing on the show floor. Just none. 0. So cars go to the show, right? The Consumer Electronics Show.
Yeah, automakers and suppliers have been coming to this show for since 2008, or it's actually 2007 was the first year, really. At that time, Mark Fields, who was president of Ford Americas at the time, he got on stage during the Microsoft press conference with Bill Gates to announce the original version of Sync.
Because it was based on
infotainment system.
It was based on Windows Auto.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that was the first big automotive thing, first big automotive announcement. And then the following year, 2008, which is the first year I came, GM, their CEO at the time, Rick Wagner, did the first CEO. He was the first automotive CEO to do a keynote here. And they did the first public demos of the Chevy Tahoe that won the DARPA Urban Challenge. So that was when I got my first ride in an autonomous vehicle.
That was the earliest self-driving car, right?
Yeah, it was one of the earliest ones. Yeah, in 2007, it won the DARPA Challenge. But you couldn't buy it. No, and you still can't buy an autonomous vehicle.
Oh, let's make that point, because despite what Elon Musk says, those are not self-driving Teslas.
Right. And so I just wanted to give the listeners a reminder that if you have a Tesla with autopilot, that it is not self-driving. You must keep your eyes on the road and your hands on the wheel.
I shouldn't laugh
because people have died. There have been 3 major crashes with Teslas, and we don't. Granted, we don't know yet for sure whether autopilot was in fact in use in any of these 3 crashes, but they all bear the hallmarks of similar crashes where autopilot was in use before. One was a Tesla that ran into the back of a fire truck. It was a relatively new Model 3 that ran into the back of a fire truck, and one of the occupants was unfortunately killed. And then the other two were both Teslas that were coming off the freeway, coming down exit ramp, ran red lights and hit other cars. And the one last weekend, the two occupants of a vehicle that was hit by the Tesla were both unfortunately killed.
Oh, no.
And then this most recent one that I just saw this morning when I was on the plane on the way out here, a similar crash where the two occupants of the Tesla were critically injured. NHTSA,
now, I should point out that people die for every one of those Tesla fatalities. There are literally hundreds of fatalities in other vehicles. The problem
that's absolutely true.
The problem is, and this is the PSA here, the public service announcement, Tesla drivers need to understand the car does not drive itself. For instance, it doesn't see and stop at red lights or stop signs.
Right. Tesla actually has pushed out an update to some owners in the last couple of weeks that is supposed to have the logic to detect traffic signals. That
seems like a recipe for disaster. What if it doesn't? You sail right through the light.
Yeah, and that's exactly the problem.
And it's not nothing is perfect.
And we don't, again, like I said, we don't know for sure if that was the case in any of these crashes. But no matter what you drive, whether it's a Tesla or anything else, pay attention when you're driving, please. Don't play with your phone. Don't look at whoever's in the car with you.
Don't crawl in the back seat and take a nap.
Exactly.
When I use my
your hands on the wheel,
the autopilot on my Model X, which I've given up, but for 3 years, I would be paranoid. I was constantly keeping my hand on the wheel and scanning the horizon. The problem is, even if your hands are on the wheel, it takes a second for you to understand what's happened. And so unless you're really paying attention the whole time.
And that is one of the issues with partially automated systems is that, when you get used to them, you start to become complacent. When it works most of the time, then you become complacent and you're not paying as much attention as you should. So you really need to pay attention all the time until we get to a stage where vehicles really are able to drive themselves under all conditions. But there's still a ways away from that. But this week at CES, we're going to see some of the technologies that are going to be going into those vehicles. There's going to be a number of interesting announcements, some stuff that I can't talk about in detail yet until tomorrow and the day after. But we're going to see some interesting stuff this week with some new chips that are powering some of these vehicles in the coming years. We actually already had an announcement just before Christmas from NVIDIA of their new Orin chip, which is designed for automated vehicles. And, this is a single chip that does 200 trillion operations per second.
Wow.
And just to give you, a kind of sense of scale, their previous chip that they had, the Xavier that they introduced 2 years ago, does 30 trillion. And back that Tahoe that I rode in back in 2008, that thing had 10 Intel servers in there that had a combined output of about 1.8 billion operations.
Oh, not even close.
So the Xavier was 15,000 times as fast as that.
Wow.
And now, we're another 6 or 7 times faster than that. And we're going to see more stuff this week that even goes beyond that. And then some of the sensors, some of the new LiDAR sensors, imaging radar sensors. And some of that stuff may even end up going into future Segways, like the one that Segway is showing off this week, which is I think you described it, kind of like the Wall-E chairs that float around.
Yeah.
And one of the first times we met, you and I met, was at CES in 2011 when GM was showing off their Envy concept, which were little autonomous pods. And those things actually used a Segway platform.
I took a ride in them. I loved it. It was so much fun.
And this is like a single-seater open-top version of that. It's not autonomous. You still guide it, but there's a little control on the side. But you can sit back in this thing and ride around in it. So
makes running red lights easier than ever.
Absolutely.
Actually, it's really, I think they call it a wheelchair. I think it's intended for people who have mobility issues, although It would be fun to have it. I mean, we have Segways at home. I love riding our Segways around. People think we look like big, massive dorks, but it's a fun way to get around.
Yeah, it certainly is. And in places where they've been, there's been some interesting use cases for them, like for tourists, in various cities where you can rent a Segway and ride around, and of course, they get used by mall cops and airport police and things like that.
One year I was going to be Paul Blart Mall Cop on my Segway. Never got around to the costume, but Sam Abuelsamid, he's already in Vegas getting ready for the Consumer Electronics Show, and then right after that, it's the LA Auto Show, right?
No, LA is in the fall.
It's Detroit.
Actually, they moved the Detroit Auto Show this year, so for the first time in years, I don't have to go straight from CES to the Detroit Auto Show. The auto show is now in June, so no more fighting blizzards to get to the auto show. We can actually have nice weather for a change.
Well, have fun. I'll see you in Vegas. We're getting together on Wednesday to take a tour of Tuesday, whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean. See ya, Sam. Sam Abuelsamid. Right. Whatever day, it's all on my calendar.
Ant's got it all taken care of, right?
Yeah, actually, Ant. I thought Ant knew a little about CES, having been there more recently than I. Scheduled 2 meetings at the Wynn, ending at 10:30, and then a meeting at the convention center at 11. I said, dude, you're not going to make that meeting at 11. You can't get from the Wynn to the convention center in half an hour during CES, I don't think.
Maybe
if you got the bus. 15
to 20 minutes is probably about the best you're going to do.
If you got the bus at the right time, well, maybe he'd do it then. Maybe he'll be able to do it.
If you can grab a Lyft or a cab, quickly, you can get there in about 15 minutes. You can
never grab a cab quickly. There's maybe it's
Lyft
changed.
and Uber are the best bets.
See, that's what's changed, because I literally haven't been at CES since before Lyft and Uber. So maybe it is easier to get around than it used to be.
It's a little easier.
Lisa was saying, should we rent a car? And I said, no, I don't want to rent a car. That'll be.
And you got to figure out where you're going to park it.
Yeah. Well, we're staying at the Renaissance, which is next door to the convention center. My plan is not to go anywhere.
I guess that's probably the best plan.
I'll have to go to the Sands, and then Showstoppers is at the Mirage, and Pepcom's at the Mirage. So I guess I'll have to. But I can.
Showstoppers is at the Wynn.
Wynn. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess they're. Oh yeah, that's right. And then the other one's at the Mirage. Anyway, as you say, I have no idea. But I do have a calendar, and I've put everything in there.
All the press conferences tomorrow are at Mandalay Bay, which is at the opposite end of the.
Oh, I know. That's way far away. That's as far as.
And the monorail doesn't even go there. The monorail stops at the MGM Grand.
See, I want to go to the AMD presser at 2 p.m. What other press conferences are worth seeing?
I don't know. I'm going to be skipping most of them because I have other meetings scheduled tomorrow. Yeah. I think the only one I'm probably going to get to is the Hyundai press conference at 3.
God, I wish I could. Then I have. Somebody's saying bring the Segways. I wish I could. That would be the way.
I don't think they'll let you take those on the plane.
No. It's a mobility device. Come on.
Yeah. But you'd probably get around Vegas faster on Segways.
Yeah.
If you could rent some here, that would be the way to do it.
The cops at the convention center all ride Segways. I'm pretty sure I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hit the road, Jack. Yes, we're gonna. Flying out to Las Vegas for the Consumer Electronics Show. For the last 8 years, I've taken great pride in the fact that I don't go to CES. You can always tell. There's really 2 groups of tech journalists in the world: those who go to CES and those who do not. This year I will be one who goes. It started the show 16 years ago. My very second Tech Eye show, or third Tech Eye show, the second weekend was from CES in 2004. Yeah. All right, now we're going to get to the phones. 8888 Ask Leo. Let's go to Mira Mesa, California. Our first call of the day. Robert is on the line. Hello, Robert.
Hi, Leo. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
And as far as robots at the CES, I hope they don't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Anyway, I would be concerned.
The Terminator will be there.
Yes, yeah, I'll be back.
Well, it's funny because, here we are in 2020, and the timeline for our lives has kind of slipped a little bit because, remember, 2001 we were on the moon, and 2010 was the year we made contact. The Blade Runner movie happened last year in 2019.
2019, yeah.
And I think the Terminator, the Skynet, was started years ago. So it's too late. Arnold can't come back and save the world. He missed the deadline. So I feel like we are living in the future without all its benefits, I guess.
The future is here. It's amazing.
It is, yeah.
I'm calling for my uncle, who is blind, visually impaired, and he has a huge library of 6,000 books, and he wants to read again.
Oh.
And we were all at the osteopath, and we were looking at the computer. There's a website called orcam.com, O-R-C-A-M, and apparently now there are optical reader cameras that will scan text and then read it back to you.
This looks amazing. So it looks a lot like Google Glass, which was a big flop because it was a solution to a problem. No one knew what the problem was. But this is a solution to an existing problem. It's a little camera that goes on the temple piece of eyewear, and it will scan what you're looking at and say it out loud to you.
And then say it out loud.
Oh, that's
And for
great.
my uncle, this would be a lifesaver.
Absolutely.
If it works as advertised. And even if it's expensive, it would be worth it. And so I was wondering, I know you in the chat room, and, there's like Dr. Mom and Fred from New Jersey, who are experts for technology for the blind, visually impaired. So I wanted to throw that out there and see if there was anything you knew or anything they knew that could, do they work as advertised? I mean, are there other models besides Orcam, other companies that are doing this?
Yeah, unfortunately, this always makes me nervous. In order to get to the price of the Orcam on their website, I have to give them every bit of my personal information, including email, phone number, address, who the device is for. I have to agree to their terms and privacy policy. And, well, maybe let me see how far I can get into the price. The fact that they obscure the price like that tells me it's probably pretty expensive, as these assistive devices are often. However, you may also be able to get support from insurance companies, from the government, from the state, because it is an accessibility device. So
exactly, yeah.
I think this looks really interesting. So yes, as you can tell, this is new to me, so I don't know anything about it. But anybody who's listening, we do have a lot of blind listeners. If anybody has any experience with the Orcam, I wonder if there's a way you could. The best thing to do, they have demo days. That would be the best thing to do, is figure out, the next demo day that's near you and go check it out. Looks like they're showing them off all over the country in various places, even in Europe and the UK. So that would be worth doing. It seems like this would be a huge boon.
Yes, if it works as advertised, like for my uncle, apparently, it will even, the advanced model will even read a book and, give you an audio text of the text scan.
The technology is not impossible by any means. The technology to do this exists. Actually, Amazon's selling these. $3,250 for the Orcam MyReader 2. So that would
be worth it if it
was
advertised.
Yeah.
I mean, for my uncle,
Yeah. This is not impossible technology. We know, you can do this with a variety of things. Google's phones will do this right now. Maybe that's another thing to look at. If you have a Pixel 4 phone, and I think they're putting this capability on the other Pixels, it will read text out loud to you if you point it at a sign. I think it probably would work with a book, and it has a pretty pleasant voice, too. So it may be that there are easier ways to do this with consumer electronics like the Google Pixel phone.
Sure. That's the Pixel 4 is the latest model?
Yeah, and they demoed this at Google I.O. They had a really moving movie with a blind Indian woman. Actually, she wasn't blind. She was illiterate. And she had to have her family members read everything to her, from cookbooks to traffic signs to instructions on how to get her money out of the bank. And she uses the phone now. You aim the camera of the phone at it, and it speaks it out loud. And I think Google's got the best technology for stuff like that. They do a very good job. I've played with it, and it really is quite impressive.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Besides Orcam, if there were other companies doing this, but. Yeah, that sounds very interesting.
The other thing you should tell your uncle about is audio books. I'm sure he knows about them, but man, it's a shame he has all these books because honestly, I stopped buying paper books for the most part, and I buy them on Audible.com, and I just love listening, and they come alive because they get really good actors. They're better than the robotic voice you're going to get with the Orcam or any automated system.
That's the thing. He's already listening, like an Audible book.
Oh, okay.
He has a lot of technical books that are not, on Audible. And so, I mean, that's what's important to him.
See if you can find somebody with a Pixel 4 and have them demo it. The concern would be, the nice thing about the Orcam, it's where your eyes are, so you're just wearing it. With the Pixel, you'd have to hold it the whole time as you're reading. On the other hand, because you can scan along the page, I don't know. It'd be worth taking a look at that if you could find somebody with a Pixel 4 phone.
Absolutely. And if anybody in the chat room or anything has anything to contribute to the discussion, I would appreciate it. Yeah. And my uncle would appreciate it. And, and I always, I want to thank you, Leo, for what you do every weekend. I listen to your show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, Robert.
Okay.
I thank you because if we didn't have any listeners, I'd have to work for a living, and that would be so hard.
There you go.
At this point, I like this.
CES,
All right. Thank you, Robert.
You
appreciate it. Have a great day. Thank you for helping your uncle, too. That's a really this is where technology really could change things dramatically. They could be your eyes. And I think in a lot of senses, we already are seeing these kinds of things. So that's pretty cool. Phone number 8888 Ask Leo if you have an experience with the Orcam, which is great. There is apparently, Ruben says in the chat room, there is a video channel on YouTube called Blind Life or The Blind Life, and they have a review of the Orcam. Ruben says it's the best on the market. Thank you, Ruben. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, your smartphones, your smartwatches, your augmented reality, your virtual reality, your real reality. 8888 Ask Leo is my phone number. If you want to talk high tech with me, I'd love to talk with you. 888-827-5536. Toll free anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. We haven't taken very many calls, so I'm going to get to as many as I can this hour, starting with line 2, Craig in Venice Beach, California. Hi, Craig.
Hi, Leo. We have clearance. Roger.
What's your vector, Victor?
I love that reference.
A little airplane for you. So how's the weather on Venice Beach right now?
Oh, sunny. It's warming up.
Love it.
Beautiful right now.
Love it. What can I do for you?
Long listener, first-time caller. Leo, I remember you talking about LastPass, and so I'm thinking about signing up for that as password protection, internet protection. But then I remembered you were saying there's one other thing you have to do also, and then I have a quick follow-up question.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. First of all, let me mention that LastPass is a big sponsor of our podcast network. They're kind of the foremost sponsor. They even bought studio naming rights. So I'm a fan of LastPass. I've been using them for a decade. But they're a category of software that, to be fair, is fairly crowded. They're called password managers. And the idea, LastPass does this, but they all do it. The idea is instead of either doing one of the worst things you can do, which is reusing passwords over and over again, the next worst thing you can do is making bad passwords. You know, your birthday and your dog's name and your mother's maiden name, and those are wildly easily guessable by bad guys. They've gotten very good at brute forcing. So those are two bad practices almost everybody does, and a password manager eliminates them. Your passwords are locked into a vault You do have to remember one password, the password that unlocks the vault, but everything else is stored there. And because you don't have to remember those, you can use different, and you should use different passwords for everything you do. And you should let the program, the password vault, generate them. So it'll generate long, completely unmemorable, random passwords. But because it's keeping track of them, you don't care about that. You just remember that one password. Make that a good one, obviously. But if you can remember one, that's good. The other thing LastPass does, which I think is important, and there are a lot of side features, things like emergency access to loved ones if something happens to you, the ability to share passwords with family members. There's business features as well. But those are all kind of bells and whistles on top of the basic functionality. And there are a lot of programs that do this. People also, another very popular one is 1Password, Dashlane, Bitwarden. There are a lot of them. LastPass has a free tier, so it's worth trying it for free. And then if you want to use it on every device, you pay a little bit more, I think $3 a month, and then you can use it on every device. The second thing I told people to do, though, and I'm glad you asked it because it's really very important. Once you get your password ducks in a row, once you're making good passwords, you're not trying to memorize them. You're storing them in a secure, encrypted vault that only you have access to. The next step is to turn on two-factor authentication. Is that what you were thinking of, two-factor?
Yeah, maybe. And then you were talking about on your website, you talked about Authy, but that's on the phone. So
that's two-factor.
USB one.
Yeah, so there are a variety of two-factor solutions. The idea of two-factor in a nutshell is having a second way of authentic. The whole problem here is how do you prove you are who you say you are, right? To a website, right, to your bank, that's called authentication. And the way we do it with a password is with something you know. But there are other kinds of authentication. There's biometrics. It's something you are, your irises or your fingerprints or your face. But there's also something you have. And this is an old form of authentication. I remember when I first started using PayPal, they sent me a little football-shaped dongle that generated a 6-digit code every 30 seconds. And then I could register that dongle with PayPal, and then they would say, okay, what's that code? You still use that with the password, but now you have two factors, something you know plus something you have, something you physically have. The Authy solution is a program I recommend. There's Google Authenticator. Microsoft has an authenticator. They all do the same thing. It's called time-based one-time passwords, TOTP. They change every 30 seconds. And it's, in effect, something you have because unless you have your phone with the authenticator running, you can't generate. It's just like that football. You can't generate the 6-digit code. So for the most important stuff, I would turn on two-factor. That means your email system, Gmail if you use Google. That means your bank, if they support it. Sometimes the banks will text you a message. Same idea. It's your phone. Problem is it's fairly easy if somebody's targeting you for them to SIM jack you, for them to steal your phone number. And so it's not considered as strong as using something like Google Authenticator or Authy. The even more strong system is one I use, which is a physical key. It's a USB, it looks like a USB drive. I use one from a company called YubiKey, or Yubico actually, and the product is the YubiKey, YUBICO.com. And they're anywhere from $20 to $50. What happens when I use my YubiKey, I log into LastPass. I have two-factor on my password manager, of course. It says, okay, what's your password? I type that in. It says, before I unlock your vault, plug in your YubiKey and press the button on it. Now, that means somebody has to have this key. Not even my phone. Even if I lose my phone, I'm fine. They need to have this key, and I keep it on my keychain because I'm less likely to use it. And if you do lose it, you can quickly deactivate it. And it's also a good idea if you get one to get two, keep one in a safe deposit box or at home so that you always have, a backup second key if you lose the first one. So this is really, this is black diamond level security. But nowadays, I think we all need to do it, especially on those accounts you want to protect. So you don't have to get a YubiKey. I think it's fine to use Authy or Google Authenticator. Okay. Those are free solutions, and they work quite well.
Now, how does I've read the LastPass website and I get how I use it, but how do they generate because my password is unique to go into my bank. So how do they generate these random passcodes?
It's computer software, not a hard thing to do. They use what's called a pseudo-random number generator. You get to pick uppercase, lowercase letters. Do you want numbers? Do you want punctuation? I say, as long as the bank lets me, I will take the longest password the bank will let me use, and I'll use all the different characters. That means it's truly random. But there are other ways to do it. If you search for passphrase generator, it's a little easier to remember 4 English language words. So there are passphrase generators that you can also use, like use a passphrase. If you go there, I'm looking at it right now. It'll give me 4 random words: purifier, status, aerospace, Sandy. Those are easier to remember, but almost as good as the truly random passwords generated by LastPass. So for what I would suggest is use a passphrase generator for your LastPass password, and then let LastPass generate its crazy long ones. And if you look at a LastPass password, you don't need to, but if you do, it's all sorts of crazy stuff jumbled together. You couldn't possibly remember it, but that's the point. It's hard to remember means hard to crack.
I don't understand how LastPass gets into my bank. Like, I go to LastPass.
No, it doesn't work that way. So when you set up your bank account, it asks you for a password. You can provide one. Most people say Daisy123 and leave it at that.
Right.
So what you do is you say, password manager, LastPass, generate one for me. And it generates one. That's the same one. You'll keep using that every time. It just generates it and remembers it. You can put a browser plug. You don't have to, but you can put a browser plug-in on any browser, and it will automatically fill those in. But it's getting it from the LastPass vault. You have to, and the vault, by the way, on all of these password managers, is only decrypted on your device. So the company doesn't have access. They don't want access to them. No one has access but you. That's a good question. I can see why you'd be confused. It's just making up a password for you to use.
So what is it going to, like, my bank and going, I forgot my password, and then making up a brand new one? Or?
Yeah, you could. The bank still has password recovery techniques. Those are, by the way, always a weak spot. You don't want to make it too easy to get your password back, because the bad guy could do that too, right? So that's why generally another step, if you want to continue the passage of being more secure, is to register an email address with the bank and a phone number with the bank. Do this with Google too. Probably when you're using it with Google, you don't want to use your Gmail address. You want to use a secondary address, maybe your ISP's email. And that's a recovery address. So that Google or the bank can say, oh, you lost your password. Well, we'll mail you a reset token to your private address. And you want to make sure you keep a hold of that. So, yeah, I understand it's complicated. It's so worth doing. And I think the takeaway here is that bad guys have figured out how to crack passwords quickly using software. And if you use a dictionary word or a birth date or anything that seems easy to remember, chances are good their software can crack it in seconds. So those are a bad idea. The other vulnerability is if you reuse a password. Let's say you used the same password at your bank and Target and Instagram and Facebook, and one of those gets breached, as happens. Target got breached, and your password is put out on the hacker net. Then they go, oh, I got his password. Let's try it everywhere. So you never want to reuse passwords if you can avoid it.
When I sign up for LastPass, do I have to go back and change all of those passwords again?
You don't have to, but you can. It's a good project over a period of time to do. I would recommend it. In fact, LastPass will help you do it. They'll walk you through the process. In some cases, they can do it automatically. But absolutely, everybody listening should be doing this. If you have had a default password that you've used on many sites, now's the time to fix that. One of the things LastPass does is a security audit, and they'll tell you, oh, you've got the same password on 24 sites. Those are the ones you want to change right away. And then the ones with your dog's name and your birth date, you might want to change those too. It's really common. I have family members I've told this to 100 times. They still, use the easy thing. I don't blame them. Passwords are hard. We weren't designed to remember hundreds of passwords. The Password Vault is an inexpensive, effective way to protect yourself. Highly recommend. Hello, Chris Marquardt.
Hello, how are you?
Happy New Year. I'm great. How are you?
Happy New Year to you, too. I'm doing good.
Are you, you're not going to CES. I already asked you this. I don't know why. I think all those of us who are going want everybody to suffer. Suffer along with us.
CES is, no interest at this point, no. I think from a photography point of view, not too sure what they're going to bring. There will be some announcements, but nothing that has piqued my interest at this point.
You can watch our feed.
I will certainly do that.
And we're going to, because of Ant, who's a photographer, and me, we're going to be looking at a lot of camera stuff. We've got Canon and Nikon and all that. I am going to be shooting it. I don't know if this is a good idea or not. I wish I had an A7S, but I have my R4, and I'm going to shoot 4K video with that on a wide lens so that the editors can move around within it because we only distribute 720p. So, and I'm going to have a monopod. I also have the new Peak travel pod. I'm just going to put it there.
Are you going to record to an external drive or something?
No, I'll just record it. We'll pull it off regularly and upload it. I wish I had an extra, I want minimal gear. And then
but if you're like a little Atomos or something that would...
I know, I'd love to.
That would do
then I can see what I'm getting.
22 footage right there. Anyway, that sounds still fun.
Next time. And then I bought...
I'm with you on the travel light kind of thing, on the try to avoid carrying too many things because there's too many batteries to charge and too many cables to lose and stuff,
We've done that. And I'm trying to do a guerrilla operation this time. We've done...
That sounds cool.
We've done the big operation.
I seen a big German TV station on a trade show shooting with an iPhone and a plugged-in microphone.
Right.
So
I got, and this is the only unknown. Sony makes a shotgun mic that goes right on the hot shoe. It's digital, and I think it's pretty good. I hope it is because that's all the. I don't even want to hold a mic. I don't want to mic anybody up. Okay. But because we're really wide, I'll be shooting.
Oh wait, you can get close this way.
Really close, like this close.
That should be fun.
It's going to be interesting.
That should be fun.
It could be a car wreck. I don't care.
I think it'll be fine.
It'll be fine. It'll be fun. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Every time I hear Willie Nelson, I kind of cringe. You must have, everybody has a memory of something you did in the past that you go, oh, God, I'm so embarrassed. Oh, right? Or is that just me? I think about stuff, and I go, oh, what was I thinking? I interviewed Willie Nelson. This was a while ago, maybe 20 years ago. And he brought with him his beautiful old beat-up guitar. I mean, that thing has been there and back. Is it Lucille? He's got a name for it. I don't think it's Lucille. Anyway, he's got a beautiful, he's had it for so long, it's got a hole worn where his hand goes. It's a beautiful thing. And he brought it, and I'm embarrassed to say, on TV, I said, can I hold that? And to his credit, Willie was very gracious and said, sure. But, oh, man, looking back on it, I cringe. Why did I do that? Lucille's BB Kings, I know. But what does Willie call? He had a name for it. That's part of it, right? You got to name your guitar. Old Paint. I don't know. I guess there must be a way. I wish there were just a way you could find facts online, just like magically just find facts. Oh, it's called Trigger. And yeah, it has a big hole in it still. It's a Martin N20 nylon string classical acoustic guitar. Just like that, you can find that stuff out. Back to the phones we go. Line 3, Larry in San Francisco. Hello, Larry.
Hello, Leo. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I have a question because of something that I was doing that leads to another sort of question circumstance. I want to talk to you about it. I changed the default settings of my Windows 10 machine to some of the default programs, most specifically, you know how Microsoft Edge is supposed to handle PDFs.
Right.
I hate that. And I have Acrobat Pro. I've had an old version of it, so I changed that to the default.
Right.
And then I decided just recently that I was, at the start of the new year, I was going to get rid of some old programs to make room on my hard drive until I can finish building my new machine. So as I'm removing programs, I'm noticing I keep getting these messages that say such and such caused a problem, and I have to set it to reset to default. And it's like, and then I go back and reset it, and it would do it again and again every time I removed a program. So I'm like, why is it resetting the defaults that I told it?
Golly, Windows, don't you know? So, yeah, this is an easy thing to do. In fact, if you hit Windows key and type default apps, it'll take you right to that setting, the control panel.
Right.
Where you can choose the default apps, not for everything, but for email and maps and the music player, the photo viewer, the video player, the web browser, that kind of thing.
Well, I discovered there's a link there that says you can pick your default by program type.
Yeah, and that's kind of nice that Microsoft has kind of exposed that. It's always been there. Microsoft has always maintained in Windows a database of extensions, you know, like .doc, .docx, .xls, and the programs that are supposed to run it. And that was always the kind of advanced tip for people who use Windows. You can go into there is a GUI interface to manage that. You can go into that and you can say what should happen when you double-click that kind of document. So that's even a step farther. You're right. I'm not sure why it's getting reset on you when you uninstall apps, except that it's, you know, you're disturbing that database. What they don't want is for an app extension to be orphaned. So it's, especially with Edge, which is the default browser now on Windows 10, they don't want you really to change the default. So it may also be that Microsoft is using this as an excuse to get you to go back. Here's what my suggestion would be, is to revert to the defaults before you do whatever modifications you want to do to Windows, and then just go back into that window and say, okay, now this is what I really want it to be. I think it's just that this is a long, complicated database, and their fear is that you could make the worst thing from Microsoft's point of view is that you make your computer misbehave or inoperable, because then that means an expensive tech support call that they have to pay for, and they don't want to do that. So that's my guess, and this is always the case, they're going to err on the side of caution, which means they aren't going to do what you want them to do. I don't know if there's a particular bug that's causing this. It's my guess it's intentional. But maybe somebody will know and call us. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. It is possible, I guess, Larry, that there is a bug that's doing that. I haven't seen that before. Anybody in the chat room see that? Microsoft, let's see. Windows resetting default apps. Let's just Google that and see. So give me like an example of how this happens.
Okay, well, which ties into the other problem. So I'm removing programs. I was removing an old program.
Yeah.
The desktop sort of flashed, and then a message comes up that says, this is causing a problem. We have to revert to the default.
Yeah. Probably that program was associated with a file type. So there is a way to prevent this. I'm looking actually at superuser.com. Windows 10 is well known for resetting the apps the user set by default. What a surprise, because they want, they want you to use what they expect you to use. So there is a way, I got to warn you, there's a way to do this with regedit.
Done that, but
yeah, but of course, doing that is always scary.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a link to a website, winaero.com, winaero.com. But if you just Google "prevent Windows 10 from resetting your default apps," you'll see this. And I'm just going to say, as you know, regedit is both the advanced technique and a great way to screw your machine up.
Exactly.
So
I might just go with what you said.
It might be better just to live with it. Yeah. But if you really want to do it, apparently there is a registry setting. This has to do with photos in particular. So it may be that this only affects photos, but it kind of says don't change my default apps. This will prevent the Photos app from taking over image file type associations. That might be related if you're talking about PDFs. It might be that the Photos app is saying, "Oh no, I want this." But you can in the registries make it be the default. I just think that's a dangerous thing to do.
I do too. I think I'll just let them kind of win or read every once in a while.
What we've got is confirmation that you're not alone. That actually Windows does do this from time to time.
Exactly. So the other issue was, as I was removing these programs, I accidentally removed one that I hadn't used for a long time, but I love. So I wanted it back, and it was a digital download, so I know I have it in my archive somewhere. But I thought, rather than go hunt for that, why don't I just go to Carbonite and restore the program?
Oh.
Then I discovered that Carbonite doesn't seem to back up
not by default
program files.
Yeah, not by default. It also doesn't back up movies and media files, and the reason being, they want the defaults to be kind of reasonable, not because if you back up everything, it's going to take forever. So they turn off the largest files and the stuff they figure, well, you've got a copy of that because you installed it or you'll download it again.
That's true.
And so you can tell it to, but you have to go in the settings. The default settings do not back up that stuff. But if you look at there's a list of things, exceptions that they don't back up. You'll see that's what's in there. The problem with backing up apps is it's more than just getting the exe file. There's a lot more. There's DLLs spread all over the hard drive. There's registry entries. So just restoring the exe file, unless it's a very simple program, probably isn't going to bring the app back. And I think that's the other reason why they don't do it, because it's not a reasonable way to back up. You shouldn't back up your apps.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess I have to get out my backup disk.
Yeah, it's better to uninstall and reinstall than it is to just say, "Oh, I'll keep it." On the Mac, you can kind of do that because of the architecture of the Macintosh. Everything's stuck in one big giant file, but that's not how Windows works. Every install spreads stuff all over the place.
Well, it's just that I thought once I got my new machine built and ready to go, I could just do a total restore Carbonite and everything would be back.
Just for your data, not for your apps. Just for your data. When you shoot film, that's what you do, right? You scan it so that you can use Photoshop or whatever to edit it.
That is definitely one way to get the photos into the computer. Sure.
Kind of a hybrid way of doing things.
Yeah, which is kind of the normal way to do it nowadays. If you shoot film, you'd at one point transfer the developed negative over into the computer and then continue in your regular workflow. Yeah,
I know it baffles some people why in this modern day and age where we have been freed from the shackle of photo developing and processing and printing, would anyone choose to go back to film? But
people love the haptic, the uniqueness of film. The Fuji's Instax is bigger than their digital photography products. So
that's their like Polaroid thing, right?
Exactly. And it sells more. It is, I think, several times as big as their digital photography business because people love they are one of a kind. These photos are one of a kind. You cannot just. They are real. You can hold them. There's so much interesting about them.
That's one of the disadvantages. There's only one of them.
Well, you can see this from different angles, I guess.
But I'm going to say at a larger scale, the reason you like it is anything that breaks you out of your kind of mold stimulates creativity, right?
Definitely. Limitation stimulates creativity. That's one of the biggest, most important ingredients in coming up with something new. And that's kind of what I want to talk about now. It's the new year. For many people, that means it's a fresh start in certain things. And with photography, it's especially over winter when it's kind of dark and gray. It's easy to get into this dip, into this rut. And to get out of it, I have brought 3 mini assignments, just simple things.
Good.
They are not like the assignments we do on Flickr. We will not review those here on the show. They are for you. You can do them at home, and but you can share them if you have any results from them. You can share them on the Tech Guy Flickr group, because that is not just for the assignment. That's open to share other photos with people who listen to this show. So 3 little assignments. And of course, we have this alphabet thing. I thought we didn't put this here too. So it's three assignments starting with A, with B, and with C. So I call them the ABC assignments. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
So our little ABC assignments. The first one is just one where you learn to observe and try to find things around you. I call this the alternate assignment, because I want you to find structures that alternate between like 2 things, like a zebra stripe, for example, would alternate between black and white.
Alternating structures.
Or a fence would alternate between slats and no slats, and so on. And there's like a lot of that kind of stuff out there, and just going around trying to find these kind of things, and then of course put them into a nice photo. And you have a lot of different choices how to approach this. I mean, with something that repeats, I would probably first try to get it like really straight on, so it's not bent in any way. It is really like square on the camera. That could make for a really nice, more abstract kind of photo. Or you try different angles, look at it from the back, from the front, from the sides, and so on, and just try to play with it, because these structures, they lend themselves to some experimentation. So alternate structures, or alternating structures.
Okay. I like
is the
that.
first one.
Yeah.
The second one, I'll call this the break assignment. We've done this before, but I think it's a really good fit here, especially for the beginning of the year. And that is, I want everyone to break some rules, and especially their own rules, because when whoever's kind of serious about photography, they will have their own rules how to go about certain things. And some of them might even be subconscious. You might not even know of them. So this is a good way to make yourself aware of them. Let me give you a few examples. Let's say you never take a portrait with a wide-angle lens. Then it's maybe time to break that rule and use a wide-angle lens for your portraits for an entire day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or if you always shoot that's another classic. A lot of people are kind of afraid to raise the ISO. They always shoot at the lowest possible ISO because they're so afraid of some noise that might creep into the picture. Break that. Crank up the ISO really high. Kind of lean into that noise. Make that noise kind of a thing. Yes. Or another one that I as a child, I got taught you don't shoot against the sun. You have to have the sun in your back, because otherwise there's no light on your subject. Break that rule. Include the sun in your photos, so you're shooting against it, and try to see what that backlight on your subject does. So, and everyone will know their own rules best. So try to break them, and do that for an entire day.
So we got A and B.
That's A and B. C is the crop assignment.
Crop.
Because I see this a lot, where like someone is taking a picture of something and then they crop it in post, like they fix the framing. Because I mean, let's look at the cameras we have. We have so many pixels. It's easy to just like fix it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe rotate it a bit because the horizon isn't level, and then there's something coming in from the right, so you crop that out. This is exactly the opposite. You're not allowed to crop for an entire day. The photos you take for an entire day, you have to frame them exactly the way that are perfect in camera. No cropping.
Okay.
Allowed. No rotation. Allowed later. And then, to remember, you can share those mini assignments, the photos that come out of those, on the Tech Guy Flickr group. It's kind of the place to put them.
We have mini assignments all the time over there. Flickr.com, and the group is the Tech Guy. It's a big group. Thousands of people in there. You'll know you're in the right spot. And Renee Silverman, our moderator, will welcome you. While you're at it, you might also consider taking pictures for our assignment, which is...
True. It's industrial. This is the current assignment, which if you look at the A part, the alternating structures,
there's lots
in
of
industrial settings, you see lots of these kind of things.
Yeah.
So you can use all three Okay, here's your bonus points. If you put the ABC assignment into the industrial assignment,
double
break
credit.
a rule, use alternating things, and don't crop it in post-processing.
Now, you won't win anything because it's not that kind of competition. It's not a competition at all. It's just an excuse to get out there and practice, take pictures, have fun, break the rules for the new year. You'll find Chris's great photography at his website, discoverthetopfloor.com. He's also on Flickr. NUBUI is his account. We'll never know why, which is it's a mystery.
Long story.
Nubui. But Discover the Top Floor is also a place to go to find out about his wonderful photo workshops. He does all sorts of stuff. Where are you going next?
I'm going to Lake Baikal mid-February. And we still have a couple of spots open. So
see, a lot of people wait till the summer to go to Siberia, but you want to go in the winter.
The ice is just so photogenic.
Actually, your ice photos are incredible. It's worth seeing those just to.
And every time I go back there, I get a whole bunch of new stuff that is totally different from the time before. So I'm really looking forward to that one.
Find out about all his photo workshops at discoverthetopfloor.com. We'll see you next week, Chris. Thank you. And don't forget, take pictures of industrial things. No trespassing, though. Stay safe. We don't want to lose anybody. Thank you, Chris. Happy New Year to you. Phone number 8888 Ask Leo. We will take more of your calls right after this. It's as easy as A, B, C. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. See you again.
When are you going to be in Baikal? Should we pre-tape for February?
I'll leave on the 12th. I won't be here on the 16th and on the 23rd of February. Okay. So I'd be more than happy to pre-tape those.
If the weekend before that or something you want to record a couple, that would be great.
Totally fine.
Okay.
Totally fine.
Good.
I might also be not there on the 2nd, but I don't know about that yet.
That's fine.
So
it's not the end of the world. I just, if we can get you on, it's always nice.
Oh, and then the first half of the year is a bit of travel heavy. So there's another one coming up in March, which means that between my return from Baikal and the mid of March, we might want to either pre-tape one or two or skip one or two then.
Yeah,
so we can decide when the time comes.
Yeah, good.
I want to be here.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks.
So we'll figure this out.
All right. Have a great week.
Still here for the next 6 weeks.
I'll be back next Saturday talking like this.
All right. Take care.
Our show today brought to you by Worldwide Technology. Oh, we love these guys. And if you're an enterprise, you probably know these guys. Worldwide Tech does an amazing job for big businesses, helping them integrate new technology into the business. And one of the things that they did that has transformed enterprise computing is build this amazing Advanced Technology Center, the ATC. They started this a decade ago. It has grown exponentially like no other testing and research lab in the world. More than $500 million in equipment in WWT's ATC. From hundreds of OEMs, key partners ranging from the big heavyweights, the high-tech heavyweights like Intel and Dell's EMC, HPE, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, Cisco. Also the little guys, Tanium and Equinix, the emerging disruptors. It's all there, which means WWT's engineers can spin up proofs of concept. They can show how programs and hardware will work with one another. They can demo stuff for you. They can set up your setup in their lab and see how it works. The best part is you can do it too. Yeah, the Advanced Technology Center is available to WWT customers for their own testing. They have hundreds of on-demand and schedulable labs representing the newest advances in everything from multi-cloud architectures, artificial intelligence, IoT solutions built on Intel platforms, like the world's only Intel FPGA Acceleration Lab, Intel's Select Solution Lab for technologies like the VMware vSAN, and other cutting-edge solutions based on Intel's second-generation Xeon scalable processors. And, of course, and I love this stuff, Intel's new tier of Optane Data Center for persistent memory, the ODCPM. Optane's amazing. Look, find out more. Go to wwt.com/twit and create an account today. WWT, Worldwide Technology, simplifies the complex. wwt.com/twit. WWT, delivering business and technology outcomes around the world. WWT. We're going to be going out to St. Louis to see the lab in March. And I think we're doing an event for them as well, March 5th. So stay tuned. I am a traveling man, heading to Vegas tonight. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888 Ask Leo. Gary on the line from Walla Walla, Washington. Hello, Gary. Did I push the right button? Hello, Gary. Hello, Walla Walla. Talk to me, Walla Walla. All right, put Gary on hold because he might have fallen away from the phone. And go to line 1, which is Charles in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Hi, Charles.
Hey, good afternoon, Leo. How you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, my friend.
Good to see you back on there. I was glad to hear all your trips last year, and it sounds like I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. I live for fun. Well, that's why I'm going to Las Vegas for CES. Yeah. Fun. So what can I do for you today?
I had two topics that I could use help on, but I'll save the other one for another time. I'm a big fan of the show, and love your sponsors there. And
thank you.
Going back a few weeks, I finally got around to cutting the cord, and so we got a new modem, and went ahead and got the disclosure unassociated with them. I got some Eero routers.
Nice.
And get them set up and shut them down, then all security type roles you're supposed to do and everything else. And last thing I did was I went over and ran Steve gives them shields up against the Eeros.
Yes.
And so got to reply on one of the things past everything else. And I can't figure out for the life of me, is there any way to
so let me translate for the non-geeks just quickly, and then we can talk about what your particular warning was. So Eero is a router. It's actually a sponsor of our shows. They're made by Amazon now, but I've been using Eero at home since before they were a sponsor, before they were Amazon. It was one of the first consumer-grade mesh routers. The idea is you get better performance if you have multiple units spread around the house than you try to get everything to one unit down the hall. And Eero has, over time, really added a lot of features. Now, as many do, and I think it's a good idea, Charles went to my friend Steve Gibson's website. He has at grc.com, he has a thing he calls Shields Up, which tests whether your router is advertising itself on the internet. Theory being, bad guys are constantly scanning the net using tools like Nmap and Shodan to look for vulnerabilities. So the best thing a router could do if somebody comes knocking at the door is not to say, go away, not to say, the door's locked, but to say nothing at all. In other words, not let the scanner know that anything exists at that address, because most address nothing exists. So the bad guy will just move on to somewhere that's responsive to him. So Shields Up is looking for, Steve coined the term stealth mode, is looking for ports, those are all the different connections that a router can make, to see if any are open, if any are closed, and if any are in stealth. And his goal is to have everything be in stealth, so your router is silent. So what are you getting?
It was the ICPM echo request.
Yeah, that's a ping. So this is... I think the most controversial thing about Shields Up. Many companies think that you should always respond to a ping. That's what the ICMP request is. And most routers, by default, have ping turned on. I don't think you need to. Nobody's pinging you. So I agree with Steve. That would be a good service to turn off. So I am not sure. You know, I haven't done Shields Up on my router. I should probably check. I'm not sure how to turn off ICMP on an Eero, but generally it'll be in the security settings. You can say, you know, I don't want ICMP requests. Now it may be that Eros do that for other reasons. Because one of the things you agree to when you get an Eero, one of the reasons people buy Eeros, is they're somewhat managed. So the Eero company is uploading and downloading information from your router all the time, and they say this is the benefit of it because they can, get a sense of how you use your network and prioritize packets. There's always been this system called QoS, quality of service, where you could say, hey, I really want, when I'm watching Netflix, every packet has to be fast because I'm watching a movie. When my wife's getting email, it's not as important. So please prioritize the Netflix. Eero does that automatically. That may also involve them having an ICMP port open. I'm not sure. I bet you there's a way to turn it off. I wouldn't panic if you can't. It's not the end of the world. It does mean that if somebody's scanning ICMP ports, they'll see that there's something at your IP address, at your public internet address. That doesn't mean it's vulnerable. In fact, the Eero, I think the best reasons to use an Eero is they update the firmware pretty regularly, like every few weeks, to make sure it's 100% secure. So
that was a big reason why I went and got that.
Yeah.
Like you said, I like the fact that they update regularly, and like you said, like you mentioned, I looked into a little more and I saw how to manage it and that kind of stuff. I kind of wondered if it was maybe something to do with the way they manage it. But I just, in looking through the app, there's no way through the app I could find to turn it off, and I wasn't sure if there's anything worth panicking about or kind of.
Yeah, I mean, there's things you should absolutely turn off, like universal plug and play, and that's on most routers by default. That's so that you can use your Xbox to start a game server. You don't generally want that. You should turn off, obviously, file sharing and things like that. And those are all, I think, properly set on the Eero.
The only thing that surprised me was on the Eero, it came with universal plug and play open by default.
Turn that off. Yeah, almost all routers do. And again, you have to put yourself in as I was telling the last guy, the worst thing from a company's point of view is to get a tech support call because that's expensive, right? And so what they try to do is pick defaults that are going to, most people are just going to go, oh yeah, that's good. So the last thing they want is for you to call them saying, I can't create a game on my server on my Xbox. What's the matter? And they got to walk you through it. So they leave, all routers do this. They leave UPnP on. You clearly listen to Steve Gibson in Security Now, which is our great security podcast. And Steve has said for a long time, UPnP is unsafe. Reason being, a bad guy can use it. If he can get some software on your computer, he can open up a port outbound and exfiltrate information. So that's dangerous to allow any device to say, oh, put a hole in the firewall, please. So I turn it off. I recommend you turn it off. The only time you don't want to turn it off is if you have an Xbox or some other gaming system or server running that needs UPnP. But I think in general, most people should turn it off. But just Eero's point of view is, well, if you know enough to turn it off, go ahead. But we don't want you to call saying my Xbox won't work. That's expensive. So that's the reason.
I tried calling their help desk, and I think I got the poor guy's eyes were crossing, so he didn't quite understand what I was trying to ask.
Call him back. I found their support is very good. Call him back and say, look, I see that ICMP, the ping port is open. How can I close that? If you give him that clear question, he should be able to help you with that. And you know what? I'm going to look into it too because I don't want that open on my router at home. This is why it's a good idea to run Shields up. But also understand, Steve's a little bit of a tinfoil hat guy, right? I mean, he's a security guru, so he's always going to err on the side of more secure, which can be less convenient. So just a word. Just keep that in mind. In my opinion, responding to pings on a router is not the end of the world. It certainly doesn't open any security flaws.
Okay.
And I will check myself because you know what? I don't want it either. I bet you there's a way. Almost all routers you could turn it off. You just say block that port. I want to be in stealth. No response at all. It's great to have you. Thanks for calling. I appreciate it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More to come right after this. Yeah, I saw that. That's kind of a different thing. That's bridged Eeros. Yeah, you can't. It does. He did say you can block all ping requests under access rules. I've never seen a router that you couldn't block ICMP requests. It's just not. It's on. This is of all the things Shields Up does, this is the one that's most controversial. Because most routers, two things. Most routers have UPnP turned on by default and have ICMP turned on by default. Because for a long time, it's been asserted you should be able to ping the device. I will put from securityevaluators.com. There's a good article on ICMP, the good, the bad, the ugly. I'll put that in the show notes. Yeah, Shields Up. It's really, you need to know what you need to be able to read it and understand it. I think it's a good idea. He wrote it back in the day when routers often left port 135, the NetBIOS port, open, so that you could share files to the public internet. And that, if you may remember, and this was 15 years ago maybe, was a big issue. So that's why he wrote it. The Internet Control Message Protocol, ICMP, allows Internet hosts to notify each other of errors and allows diagnostics and troubleshooting for system administrators. Because ICMP can also be used by a potential adversary to perform reconnaissance against a target network, and due to historical denial of service bugs in broken implementations of ICMP, some network administrators block all ICMP traffic as a network hardening measure. In this blog post, which I just put a link to in the chat room, we review the beliefs for why administrators are motivated to block ICMP, the reasons why this is not an effective security measure against any level of targeted attack, and side effects of blocking ICMP that break legitimate network functionality. So this is a perfect article to read about the risks and rewards of ICMP. Yeah, this is another one. TTL, the lifespan of a packet is set by a timestamp or a hop counter to ensure the datagram does not propagate through the internet indefinitely. A network device with ICMP blocked will not receive type 11, time exceeded, code 0, time exceeded in transit error message, notifying the source host to increase the lifespan of the data to successfully reach the destination. If the datagram, in other words, it's a diagnostic. So I bet you Eero uses that. But I also bet that in access control you can turn it off. And yeah, here's another one. Eero firewall. Why some ports closed versus stealth. So SSH is closed, 80 is closed, according to Shields Up. Yeah. There isn't. Eero says we don't support stealth mode because there isn't a standard for it. There is no stealth setting. You can either have it open or closed. Apparently, there's no RCF. Yeah. Apparently, it isn't support. They don't support stealth because that isn't a real thing. Well, hey! How are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to take a look at tech from all the angles: computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, your smartwatch, your smartphone, your augmented reality goggles, whatever it is in your life that's giving you fits. If it's got a chip in it, we'll talk about it. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Gary is on the line, and he's calling all the way from Walla Walla. Hi, Gary.
Hello, Leo. How you doing?
I am great. Welcome.
Hey, I've got a laptop, and I'm running Microsoft Office on it. It came pre-installed. I do not have any installed disks. And the laptop was also running Win 7. So if I upgrade to Win 10, my question is, will Office still be there?
Yes.
It will? There's
yes.
So,
yeah, and in fact, you don't even have to buy Windows 10, apparently. Microsoft, you may remember when Windows 10 first came out, they had for the first year a free upgrade offer. Well, apparently they've never turned that server off. So you can download a copy of Windows 10. Get it from Microsoft. Don't get it from any third party, obviously. But if you Google Windows Media Creation Tool, and it takes you to a Microsoft.com site, you can download it, put it on a USB key, and install on top of your Windows 7. If you do it on top of Windows 7, it won't eliminate any of your existing programs. In fact, nothing will change except you'll be running Windows 10. It also preserves the old Windows 7 install, so you have 30 days. If you decide, I don't like this, you can roll back. It's prudent to back up, of course, before you do anything. This is brain surgery, so back up your data. But it works really well, and now is the time to do it, because in 9 days, Microsoft will give you your last update for Windows 7.
Yeah, I'm pretty well update with.
Yeah, you don't want to go on the internet with an unpatched operating system. That's just a little risky.
Yeah.
The reason you don't have disks is because Microsoft doesn't. You can still, if you really need to, go to the. Well, you probably can't go to the store. I was going to say go to CompUSA. No, you can't buy disks. You probably can do it online, and it's expensive. It's hundreds and hundreds of dollars if you want to get Office on a disk. What they want, and what most people do now, is subscribe. And like the home version, I think, is $8 a month, which is a lot less than buying the discs. And they get the automatic updates, and there are no discs involved. So the next time you get Office, you're probably going to subscribe anyway. So not having the discs is not the end of the world.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was basically my question.
Yeah. And do try that upgrade. Let me know if it does not work, because I have yet to find somebody that didn't get a free upgrade. Now, of course, because I've been saying that on the air, Microsoft's probably going to say, oh, wait a minute, we forgot to turn that off? Oh. I think they don't care. I think they're so anxious, and they're right, to get everybody onto the most recent version of Windows for security reasons alone, that I think they're willing to give it away, to forego that revenue.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Okay. That's great.
Glad to get you on, Gary. I appreciate it. They're saying in the chat room, it's not 30 days anymore, Leo. It's 10. Okay, 10. You have 10 days. You can then revert to the original operating system, which, unless you're really having problems, and it may be, sometimes older software doesn't play well with the new version of Windows, things like that. It may be there's something you need that doesn't work in Windows 10. But then you're kind of caught, because you're now running Windows 7 on the internet naked, because you're not getting updates after January 14th. And that's, I think, a legitimate cause for concern. You might be able to get away with it for a while. If you keep your browser up to date, if you're not, if you're using Firefox or Chrome or Brave or one of the third-party browsers, you can keep that up to date. This happened last time with Windows XP, and Chrome continued to update for a couple of years after the end of life of XP. And that is probably the most important thing to do, is make sure at least your browser is getting patched and up to date, because that's the thing that goes out on the internet. That's the one that's most likely to get hacked. Julian in Los Angeles. Hello, Julian. Leo Laporte, detective.
Hey, Leo. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So I heard you had a call earlier, a guy asking about the device called the Orcam.
Yes. Do you have one? Do you use one?
I don't, but I've seen them, and they are very interesting devices. And right off the bat, I'll tell you why they don't make it easy to get the price, because most people would be turned away if they see it. That's, of course, my immediate suspicion when I don't see a price, when I click the price button, is, they're hiding something. Exactly. So the thing is that, yes, the brand new, they sell for about $4,500. However, there's a used market out there for all this stuff. In fact, I know someone who I think is selling an Orcam. So, that's the place to look. But, the thing is that there are other alternatives, and really it would behoove this person to either talk to a local agency or find a local assistive technology specialist like myself, who could maybe sit down and do a consultation and find out what their needs are, which I'd be happy to do with that caller. I'd be happy to give my website. Oh, that's nice of you. Number. We've talked before. I always say, if there's a lighthouse for the blind in your area, independent living resource center, an agency dedicated to assistive technologies, these people, like Julian, are experts. They've seen it all. They know it all. And almost always you want an assistive technology that's specific to your particular needs. So just as no two blind people are the same, no two assistive technologies are the same. So it's nice to have an expert like Julian. What's your website, Julian? It's www.techjv.com. That's TECH, J as in John, V as in Victor.com. My phone number's there if he wants to call me, prefers to do it that way. That works as well.
You can also email help@techjv.com, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So this
Makes it real easy to remember.
Is a business for you, or just something you do because you care, or?
No, it's a business. I charge for my services, but I do a lot of research. I get my hands on as much of this stuff as possible. So I consider myself sort of kind of like you, or a bit of an aggregator, a bit of a translator between geek and non-geek.
That's a really valuable role you play, and I bet you anything the money you save people more than makes up for the fee you charge, because assistive technologies are extremely expensive. Mostly, I think, because these companies, A, they have a smaller market, but B, they know insurance or agencies, government agencies will pay for these, so the people are less price sensitive. But when I look at the cost of something like JAWS, which is a screen reader, it just pains me because I know the software shouldn't be that expensive.
It is. And I'm a big fan of helping people to find the open, off-the-shelf.
There you go.
So the stuff that's already in the Apple devices and the Android phones. There's an app out there Microsoft puts out called Seeing AI. And this is a free tool that does all kinds of things, including some of what the OrCam does.
Perfect.
So if this person has an iOS device, they may not necessarily need the OrCam.
There you go.
Android, I know you mentioned.
I love the way Android will do that, and I use it. I think it's great.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff out there. There's another one called Envision AI. This one is a subscription-based service, but it works on both iOS and Android. So, like me, I go back and forth between the platforms. So it's kind of nice to have something that I know works on both. So there's a lot of stuff out there.
I am so glad you called, Julian. Again, email help@techjv.com, and Julian will get back to you. That's a great service you provide, and you should also check in your town because there are often services for people who need assistive technologies to help them find the right assistive technology. I've seen some amazing things. There's some great stuff out there. There's Braille screens, in effect, that will read the screen and then put Braille on a movable surface so that you can, with your fingers, read what's on the computer screen. Things like that are amazing. I'm blown away by the innovation and ingenuity people have for this stuff. Actually, I think in many ways technology is a great world for people who need help with adaptive technologies. There's so much out there. Thank you, Julian.
You're welcome.
Happy New Year. I appreciate it. Help@jvtech.com. Help is on the way. You remember them? Paul McCartney's original group, the one he started out with, they were called, I think, the Beatles. Remember them? Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888, Ask Leo. I think the other side was I can't remember which was the B side. The other side was Day Tripper. Day Tripper and We Could Work It Out. Probably Day Tripper was the A side. Of course, with the Beatles, they were all A sides, weren't they? 8888, Ask Leo, the phone number. First weekend of the new year tomorrow. I don't know why they do it so close to the holidays and the new year, but the big Consumer Electronics Show kicks off on Tuesday. I'll be flying out tonight for week-long coverage at our website, twit.tv, but you can also tune in next weekend, and I'll be exhaustedly, maybe even hoarsely, talking about all the stuff I saw at CES. Gary is in Gary, Indiana. Hello, Gary.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I hear you great. Welcome.
Oh, great. Oh, man. Okay.
Now take a deep breath, Gary.
Yeah. I think I'm a year or two older than you. But
no one's older than me. I'm older than dirt. Do you remember what your first 45 was? Did you ever buy 45? Those old singles?
No, the first one I ever had was Ray Charles, and it was my brother's record.
Yeah.
And I can't think of the name of it.
I wore that. We Can Work It Out. I wore that out. I mean, I played it over and over and over and over and over and over again. Those were the days. You didn't have to download it and stream it and, put it on your phone. You had a physical vinyl thing, and the music was on it. There was some connection between you and the Beatles, I think.
they sounded a lot better too. This stuff comes over the.
I feel like it sounds better. Yeah, George on My Mind, maybe, or well, he had so many hits. I saw Ray Charles. I was doing live with Regis and Kelly many years ago, and I was with my daughter, who was at the time, I think she was 9 or 10.
Who did the song "Hit the Road, Jack"?
That's Ray Charles. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no. I remember we was sitting with Abby, my daughter, watching Ray Charles like from 10 feet away. He was playing on the piano. It was amazing in rehearsal. And I said, just remember this, Abby, because you've seen the great Ray Charles perform live. She said, who's he? And I said, well, yeah. Yeah. What can I do for you today, Mr. Gary?
Okay. I was doing some tech surgery on my son's W530 Lenovo laptop. Trying to fix the power jack.
Uh-huh.
And saw that was a no-go, so I got him a docking station.
Good.
Which solved everything.
Good. Yeah, because those older Lenovo's, they've stopped doing this, which is a shame. Have a connector on the bottom that goes to the dock, and you just snap it in. And so if your power port doesn't work, don't worry. You snap it into the dock. Modern Lenovo ThinkPads don't have that anymore. You have to connect via the USB-C port, which means you'd probably have the same problem. So he's lucky he has that old W530. Those are great. Those are beasts.
Yeah, that works fine.
Yeah.
And it charges the batteries.
Sure.
The thing is, my giant hands hit the fingerprint reader plug.
Uh-oh.
That the ribbon plugs into.
Oh, no.
Yes, snapped it right off.
Oh, no. Well, here's the good news on ThinkPads, especially vintage ThinkPads like yours. Those parts are widely available and easily repaired. There's a whole ThinkPad subreddit at reddit.com where people talk about replacing the keyboard, replacing the trackpad, replacing, the fingerprint reader, the screen, every bit of those parts. Unlike modern laptops where everything's glued in because they're so thin and light, and there's really no user serviceable parts inside at all. That W530, that workstation is almost certainly easily fixed.
What we were trying to do was bypass the password. He can't find
Oh, no, he can't get in.
Yeah.
He doesn't remember his password, huh?
Right. And it's the one hard drive. He has two accounts. One's open, that's his wife's. The one that's password is his.
The good news is if his wife's an administrator.
No.
She's a standard user. Okay, so he only had one admin account. Here's the other good news on most, and this is it Windows 7 or Windows 10?
7.
Yeah. Most Windows 7 machines had a hidden administrator account. And that does not have a password. So what you'll want to do is Google Windows 7 hidden administrator, because the steps of enabling those are, I don't want to go through it on the air. There's a number of different ways to do it, but you don't have to have a login to do it. And if you can enable it, then he's golden, because he can go in as the hidden administrator and then change the password on his account, and he'll be back in.
Fantastic.
Yeah. They stopped doing that, by the way, because, of course, as you might guess, that's a huge security flaw.
Oh, yeah.
So they don't do it in Windows 10, but if you had a Windows 7 machine, you do. There is a hidden account that has no password. It is disabled, but you can enable it without logging into his account. So I'll put a link. There is a few different pages. If you Google it, you'll find it right away. But I'll put a link in our show notes to it, techguylabs.com.
Fantastic. I've called and I've talked to you 2 times before, and both were very helpful.
Good, Gary.
I've gone into your chat room.
Nice.
At 2:00 in the morning.
Oh, there's people there all the time. They got nothing else to do, I guess.
Yes. So Loquacious.
She's great. Well, you know what happens? It's global. So if you go in at 2 a.m., you're going to get the Australians. They're up late. It is irc.twit.tv, and yeah, it doesn't just run during the shows. There are great people in there all the time. They're very helpful.
Well, thank you, and thank those guys, all of them, young men and young ladies, all.
They're great, aren't they? Well, thank you, Gary, for listening. I appreciate it. I really feel like we're all helping each other out here. That's the point. This stuff is complicated, crazy, obtuse. The computer industry doesn't do a good job, so we have to do it for each other. Leo Laporte, Tech Guy, 8888. Ask Leo the phone number. Let's see. Line 1. We got George on the line from Santa Monica. Hi, George.
Good afternoon and Happy New Year to you, Leo.
Happy New Year to you. Thank you.
Before I ask my question, I'll say my first 45 that I remember listening to or bought was Buddy Holly and Peggy Sue.
Oh, Peggy Sue.
Back in the 50s.
Peggy Sue. Yeah, that was a loss. He was great. Imagine what he'd be.
What he would be now.
What he'd be now. He might not be around these days, but we would have had decades of amazing music. He was so innovative for his time.
And my brother lives in Australia, and he told me yesterday, he FaceTimes me, he says there's over 800 fires throughout Australia.
It's horrific. It is.
So
if you
dry.
look at a map of Australia, it looks like the whole continent is burning. It's so tragic. And as somebody who went through our fires here in Northern California, anybody who lives in Southern California, as you know, the smoke is choking. Even if the fire isn't near you, it is miserable. And of course, if it's near you, it's worse.
He said there's children there that have never seen rain. It's so dry in some areas.
So sad.
In their whole life. But anyway, here's my question. Recently, I went and looked at my emails. I have thousands of emails. I spent one afternoon going through all of them, unsubscribing to most of them as I could, and then deleting them, all of them.
Wow.
And then now the next day...
Inbox zero. You got inbox zero.
Then the next day I had like 32 in the morning, and one of them said, well, thank you for joining our website, and we're going to be sending you video. And I go, wait a minute.
I didn't join your darn website.
How did you get there?
Oh, easy. Lots of ways. For one thing, they're probably lying. You can't believe everything you read in email. They probably signed you up. They got your email. This is the problem, of course, and that's why we all have. Well, spam. Do you ever get any spam ever?
I never check my spam box.
Yeah. Well, I guarantee you it's full. And the reason is there are very few email addresses that aren't known. And these email mailing lists, sometimes with millions of addresses, are distributed widely. They're cheap. People buy them all the time. Maybe they bought it from some site you did sign up for. Or maybe, there's all sorts of ways your email address gets out there. So
okay, they have my email, but isn't it should be against the law for them to log me into another account?
It should be, but it's not.
Oh.
So here's the deal. It would be against the law for them to charge you, but they don't have your credit card. They're not charging you.
No, they're not.
Here's the deal. I see these emails a lot. They say, hey, we're glad you subscribed, but you didn't subscribe. They're just pretending you did and hoping most people go, okay. Sometimes you can unsubscribe. Sometimes that doesn't do anything. You already did a lot of unsubscribing. I don't. In all honesty, if anybody's listening and you want to do a newsletter or email marketing, you need to do something called double opt-in. And any good company does this. If somebody submits the address saying, I want to subscribe to your newsletter, you then send an email saying, we see you asked to subscribe. If this really is you and you really do want to subscribe, click this link. In other words, preventing somebody from subscribing you. Because that's the other thing that happens. It happens to me all the time. Wags think it's funny to subscribe me to this service or that service. And most places don't do this double opt-in. They just go, oh, yeah, sure. You could be, you will. Because they want to send you marketing mail. It's spam. So the one thing you can do, and I certainly have no compunction about this, is put a filter in that says, if I get an email from this organization, put that in my spam folder.
Oh, okay.
I think, honestly, it's just another kind of spam. And if you're doing this, if you want to send out newsletters, that's fine. If somebody asks for it, that's fine. But don't assume it was them asking for it. You should always then respond with an email to that address saying, hey, did you really subscribe? If you want our newsletter, click here. That's the double opt-in. Any good mailer like, what is it, MailChimp or Constant Contact, any of these good email services, they will do that. But believe me, there are plenty of marketers who say, oh, I don't care. I don't care. I want him to get my newsletter.
When you see Dick in the upcoming days,
yes,
you tell him hi. Just tell him George says to say hi. He knows who I am.
Are you the guy who does all those pictures for Dick?
Yes.
I know you, George. I love it. Dick DiBartolo does a caption contest after the radio show on Saturdays, and George is the one who sends him the pictures.
Yeah, I find all these non-copyrighted photos and send them in.
That is the most fun thing we do on the air, I think. So it's nice to meet you, George. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I remember that one time I was on the 300 show, and you had that gigantic screen in your downstairs, that 100-inch screen.
Yeah.
And they put it up on there. I saw myself on that big screen. That was amazing.
You were bigger than life, George.
Bigger than life.
Your head was 3 feet wide.
I told him, when you get finished with the program, just send that to me. I'll 90402.
I'll send you some email, George.
Okay.
Hey, it's a pleasure talking to you.
Have a nice time at the convention or whatever.
I will, and I'll say hi to Dickie D for you.
Thank you.
Sure, George. Thank you. He does one of the funnest things we do. Is that a word? No. One of the most fun things we do on the podcasts, which is you got to watch the video though to play the game. The chat room loves George. He loves George. They love George. Spam is just never going to go away. The reason it exists, and now we're getting it on our phones too, right? Although I think I'm hoping robocalls are about to go away for good. I'll tell you about that in a second. But the problem is it costs almost nothing. If you send out a mailer, you get a lot of spam in your mailbox too, right? A lot of flyers and stuff. But that costs money. I mean, even though they're getting a subsidized rate, and frankly, those mailers keep the post office alive. But man, the amount of junk mail I get every single day, well, that costs money. So what if it costs them next to nothing to send it? You'd get a lot more, right? That's called email spam. And there is a ton of it. And as it turns out, as digital technologies have advanced with the phone network, it's gotten very easy and cheap to do robocalling. And so we're all getting a ton of robocalls all the time, right? I am hoping the president just signed the Traced Act, TRACED, legislation that makes it harder for robocallers. It was signed into law on December 31st, on New Year's Eve. It does a number of things that will make it easier for the FCC to prosecute robocallers, to protect you from spam calls and spam text messages. I get a lot of those too, right? And they're also implementing, and will get every carrier to implement a new protocol called Stir and Shaken, which does sound like James Bond's favorite martini, but in fact is a way of authenticating calls. See, the problem with phone numbers now is you can make one up. It's easy. That's why all those robocalls come from your neighbors. They don't come from your neighbors. But they look like they do with your area code, even your exchange, because they're just made up. So they're going to make that harder to do that. 48 billion robocalls last year, and they've got to stop. So this Traced Act, I hope will do it. They've caught some of these guys and fined them hundreds of millions of dollars. It still doesn't slow them down. So let's cross our fingers that the Traced Act does something to slow it down. Spam. Technology brings us so many good things, but yeah, then there's some bad things. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, our last segment of the day, coming up right after this. Thank you for letting me do this show, because otherwise I'd be gainfully unemployed, out on the streets, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Thanks also to my helpers, the great Lady Laura, our musical director. To Kim Schaffer, our phone angel. And, of course, most importantly, thanks to you. Because if you didn't listen to the show, well, I'd just be talking into thin air, and that's no fun. Website for the show is techguylabs.com. If you hear something on the air and you say, wait a minute, I want to remember that, you don't have to write it down. Then we'll do that for you. James Deruvo, another one of my helpers, writing everything I say down, putting it up on the website. It's free. There's no sign-up. It's not a ploy to get more money out of you. It's thanks to our sponsors, I don't have to charge you. It's techguylabs.com. techguylabs.com. Line 4, Rick, Torrance, California. Hello, Rick.
Hey, Leo, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. What I'm trying to do is I'm noticing that I've got duplicates, triplicates. Even today I found like a photo that there were 6 of the same photos between all my different backups and everything. So I want to go through the machine and not just photos, but any kind of files, documents, anything like that. Do you have something that you trust running?
Yes.
There are so many free ones out there that you run. And then when it shows you what you got, it says,
they want money.
You got to upgrade.
They want money. I got one. I don't know if it's free. It's inexpensive, and it really does a great job. So first of all, Windows or Mac, because that's important.
Mac.
Okay. And actually, this program works. I'm looking through my iPhone because I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but it works on both Mac OS and iOS, which is really, really handy. What is the name of it? My friend, Micah Sargent, who does the iOS Today show, recommended it to me, and I found it to be amazingly good at killing dupes. The reason it's tricky, of course, is some of those dupes are photos you've edited, right? So there might be the original there, and then the one without red eye, the one where you cropped out the old girlfriend, whatever, and they look the same, but maybe they aren't exactly the same. So you don't want a program that just says, well, it looks, it's the same date and the same name, so it must be. Or worse, a program that says, oh, it's a different name, it can't be the same. What you really want is a program, and the best dedupers will do this, that don't just look at the file name or the date or the time, but actually look at the contents of the file and create what I call a hash, they call it a hash too, of the data, and then they can say, well, this is exactly the same. And that's the ones you want to get rid of. Not the slight edits, the slight differences, but the ones that are exactly the same.
Correct.
And so this program will do this, but I can't remember the name of it. I'm going to find it for you. I'm stalling a little bit because I thought it was on my iPhone. I've been going through my iPhone because I have been using it, and it's a really excellent one. Oh, man. Maybe the chat room will remember. We talked about it on iOS Today. Gemini. That's it. It came to me because of the twins, right? Okay. Gemini, and this is the best on Mac OS as well as on iOS. It's from a company called MacPaw. They make some of the best Mac software, MacPaw.com, Gemini 2. And I love it. I ran it on my phone and went through all my Apple photos, and because it's the phone, it's the same photos as on my desktop. And it did a very good job of figuring out. It'll actually say these photos look like 4 images from the same time. So they're slightly different. It's really smart about that. So you could say only, you have full control over it. Only delete the ones that are exact duplicates, or no, I got 20 of the same thing because I kept shooting, right? And this is a great program. Gemini, and actually the latest version is called Gemini 2, and it's at MacPaw, MacPaw.com. Let me see how much it is, because it isn't free. It's $20. Well worth it.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, worth it. Okay?
Hey, one last little quick one.
Yes.
If you don't mind.
Not at all. Yeah.
I've been searching for a cheap Mac, or not a MacBook, a cheap Chromebook. Because I'm going to be sending it overseas. I can't even guarantee that it'll get to the person I'm sending it to.
Yes.
And then I came up with an idea that I don't know if it's doable or not. Can I take an old laptop that I'm not using anymore and convert that over to a Chromebook?
You sort of can. That's a great idea. The problem is that Google doesn't have an official way to do it. But the good news is Chrome OS is a open source project. It's the Chromium OS. And so there is a company that will let you put Chrome OS on a laptop. My experience is it doesn't work every time on every laptop, but it's worth a try. It's called Neverware, neverware.com, and the program is called Cloud Ready. And since I tried it a couple of years ago, and it worked on some, it didn't work on all. They say they've got it working on more. They say, in fact, it turns almost any computer into a Chrome device. If you can run Windows on it, you probably can run Cloud Ready on it. So I would take a look. Yeah, neverware.com. And I'm a big fan of Chrome OS, as you know. I think this is worth doing. What I would do is download the trial version first and make sure it'll work on that particular old computer. And then I think there is a free version, but the home edition, I think, no reason to pay for it. The home edition looks like it'll do everything. Neverware.com. Let's see. Am I going to have to take another call before the end of the show? And I think it's going to be, yes, David in Boston. You win. Hi, David.
Oh, my lucky day.
Your lucky day, sir.
I'll be quick. My brother is deaf. He lives an hour away from me. And I want to be able to send a message with my cell phone.
Right.
To the lights that I have in his
phone. You mean you want the phone to, like, blink the lights or change the color or something like that?
No, just set them off, and that will tell him if those lights go off, he's got to go to either his email or his TTY phone.
Sure.
Call me.
Sure. So most internet-connected lights will do this. The ones I use, and I think most people use, this was one of the very first companies to do it, is the Hue lights. Used to be Philips. They've changed the name of the company, but it's still Philips, the light bulb company. I think the new company is, what is it called, Signify, something. They got a crazy name for it. But these are great. You can go to meethue.com, meethue.com, and see they have a huge range of bulbs, lamps. They've got LED light strips. They've got all sorts of things, so you can find something that's suitable. We use the Hue lights at home. The nice thing about it is you put them on the internet, you put it on your Wi-Fi, and then you can use the Hue app on your phone to change his lights.
Oh, okay. Now, would that company have the receiving device for me?
Yeah. So you're smart. You're thinking about this. They do need a hub. So we'll probably want to get the starter kit, which includes a couple of light bulbs and a hub. The hub plugs into the router or joins the Wi-Fi. It doesn't have to. They call it the Hue bridge, and it controls. You only need one for the whole house. It controls all the lights. The other thing that's great about Hue is you can set up scripts. So I had mine, for instance, when the sun went down, the lights would come on, or they would change color. You can have it set up so if his phone rings, the lights blink. There's all sorts of things you can do with it.
Do you spell that H-U-G-H?
H-U-E, like the color, Hue.
Oh.
Hue.
Okay.
Highly recommend them. There are a lot of companies that do this. Hue is the original, and I think they're still the best.
Oh, terrific. meethue.com.
Yep. I think you'll actually, what happens is you start playing with them, they know you're going to buy more and more. You come up with all sorts of ways to use it. I'm headed off to Vegas. Am I already losing my voice? Can you believe it? I will be covering CES next weekend. I hope I'll see you here. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Have a great Geek Week. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on MacBreak Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.